Hi, and good day to doctors and my fellow friends. We are from Group 4, and let's start by introducing to you my members. So we have Ko Chuan Hui, Tong Wei Chun, Tae Jin Yi, and me, Dan Jia Hui. Today, this presentation is going to talk about genome editing with the title of Perfect or Original. I will now introduce to you what genome editing is. Genome editing is a way of making change of specific parts of a genome. Scientists have been able to alter DNA since the 1970s. Since 2015, a few laboratories have been experimenting with a far more controversial use of CRISPR, a technique of editing the genomes of early human embryos, eggs, and sperm. If edited embryos are used to start a pregnancy, the changes affect every cell in the body of any resulting child, that child's offspring, their offspring, and so on. Dozens of countries already prohibit any attempt to start a pregnancy with edited embryo, yet some scientists seem eager to proceed. The central issue of this genome editing is in the November 2018, a researcher He Jiankui from Shenzhen, China announced the birth of the first gene-edited babies, which are twins girls publicly referred to as Lulu and Nana. In a reckless and widely condemned experiment, he had edited the DNA of two embryos and used them to start a pregnancy. The babies were born prematurely and their current health status is unknown.
Hi everyone, I'm Ko Chuan Hui and I'm now to discuss about preliminary decision, similar cases study, and the harm test. For the decision, whether it is ethical for He Jiankui to go against the other parties and continue his research. For him, He Jiankui decided to ignore other parties and intended to continue it. Similar cases study. The first case is Cohen and Boyer, who were the first scientists to use a technique called recombinant DNA in 1973. Recombinant DNA refers to artificially combining DNA from multiple sources. In the past few decades, additional methods have been developed, such as the TALEN, transcription activator light effective nuclease, and zinc finger nuclease. At 2017, Joshua Jenner injected himself with modified cells. He broadcasted it live on video on Facebook, and his goal was to grow an extra muscle mass. He wanted to gain muscle mass by suppressing the activity of the gene that codes for the muscle growth inhibitor myostatin. Harm test. There were 4 affected parties in the harm test, which were the He Jiankui, parents of Lulu and Nana, and the public. For He Jiankui, the benefit will be he did quite an effort on contributing to genome editing research, while he get being forfeiting his credibility and privileged position as a scientist and criticized by the scientific community since he neglected the ethical concern. For the parents for Lulu and Nana, they were satisfied and able to have perfect children that are free of disease, while the perception of parental negligence for deciding against performing genome editing will be the harm brought to the parents of Lulu and Nana. Well, for the Lulu and Nana, they are free from suffering and the discovered and cured disease, since the genes that edited have coded to resist the virus, while the harm being to them is the possibility of unintended effects due to off-target DNA alteration. Besides, they are also losing their human rights, as they might be targeted as a research or experiment body. Last but not least, the public. Public will getting more exposure on this issue and more opportunity to expand their offspring's lifespan. For the harm, the public getting more potential for criminal application and more potential to create harm on health that will extend to multiple generations.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason Yi and I will be discussing about the professional test and the faith test. For the professional test, first we have the South Korea Bioethics and Biosafety Act 2008. The act stated that anyone who becomes a subject of research or experimentation in the area of life sciences and biotechnologies shall have the right to be fully informed of his or her involvement in the research and shall also have the right to consent or refuse consent after being fully informed of his or her involvement in the research. Next, we have the Malaysia Biosafety Act 2007. This act prohibits persons from carrying out activities involving LMOs, which are release, importation, exportation, content use, or products of such organisms unless they have obtained prior approval for release into the environment or provided notification for all other activities, export, content use, or import for content use. In accordance with the Act, establishes a scheme to assess the risk to human, plant, and animal health, the environment and biodiversity associated with various activities involving LMOs, and where applicable, products of LMOs, including opportunities for public consultation. For the faith test, we can see from 4 different religions. For Islam, it stated that in it there are men who love to observe purity, and Allah loves those who maintain purity, from Quran 9:108. Next, we have the Christianity. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Philippians 4:8. Besides Buddhism, stated, you are the source of all purity and impurity. No one purifies another, by Gautama Buddha. And last but not least, Hinduism. And whenever the mind unsteady and restless strays away from the spirit, let him evil and forever lead it again to the spirit. Thus, joy supreme comes to the yogi whose heart is still, whose passions are peace, who is pure from sin, who is one with Brahman, with God. The yogi who pure from sin ever prays in this harmony of soul soon feels the joy of eternity, the infinite joy of union with God. Bhagavad Gita 6:26-8.
So now, let us look at the publicity test. So based on the result, we attempt that we should publicize this human genome editing case in mass media because first, it acts as an alternative to cure the congenital diseases that may be possible to find in our future generations. Second, by publishing this case, it will enable the data generated to be more widely available to the community as well as easily understandable and reproducible. Third, Malaysian citizens have the rights to know about the case and have the freedom to express, despite the fact that government restricted some acts, for example, Sedition Act and the Communications and Multimedia Act. For the conclusion part, after we have gone through the harm test, the professional test, the faith test, and the publicity test, we obtain a conclusion that it is unethical for He Jiankui to go against the other parties and continue the research because all of us are faulty beings and we simply have to recognize that. Any ideology that works against the grain of human nature in order to create an utopia will eventually end in dystopia. By nectarizing the limitations of human beings, one may prevent the unnecessary destructions and death that results from attempts from perfect humanity. Before we end our speech here, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our Ethics and Safety PBL lecturer, Dr. Lin Sok Lee, for constantly guiding and advising us towards the betterment and success in completing these posters. So that's all from our infographic, perfect and original. Thank you.